The shouting started before the front door finished swinging open. William Carter, an army general who had learned to run toward danger, not away from it, stood frozen on the threshold of his own living room. In front of him, the maid he hired only a month ago had his blind mother pinned to the floor. The old woman's gray hair spread like a halo on the rug as the maid raised a wooden broom and struck again. Smack, another strike. "You useless old bat," the maid hissed. General Carter's duffel dropped from his shoulder and thudded on the floor. For a blink, the whole world went silent. And then his mother, Margaret Carter, cried out, "Will, is that you?" The broom lifted high for another blow. General Carter's fists clenched. He took one step forward, then the maid turned, eyes fierce and wild, and hurled the broom straight at his face. It sliced the air toward him. Everything hung in the space between the broom's shadow and his mother's trembling hands reaching up for him. Would he catch it in time? Would he lose control? The man who had commanded brave soldiers on distant shores felt a different kind of battle storming inside him. One of rage and duty, love and law. The broom spun. He threw his arm up. "Now let me take you back to how we reached this terrible moment." General William Carter believed in 3 things his mother taught him. Protect the weak, speak the truth, and never use your strength to hurt those who cannot see the hit coming. Life tested those rules many times, but never more than in the small town where he grew up, Oakhaven, a place with tall mango trees, dusty red roads in summer, and neighbors who could greet you by name even if they had not seen you for 10 years. He left the town when he was barely 20, promising his mom he would return with honor. His father had passed when he was young, so Margaret became both mother and father, her voice soft but firm, her hands calloused from long days of work. Years later, a sudden sickness took her sight like a thief in the night. William swore, "Mom, I'll be your eyes always." The army hardened his muscles and sharpened his mind. It made him brave, but not hard. He wrote to his mother every week, and he called whenever he could. Neighbors looked in on Margaret, and William sent money home. But still, he worried. The last time he visited, he noticed how his mother's steps had grown slower and her hands shook when she poured tea. He realized she needed help at home every day. So he hired a maid, Evelyn Brooks, who came with a glowing recommendation from a woman at church. Evelyn was in her late 20s, with neat hair, a tidy smile, and a voice that softened at the edges when she greeted Margaret. "Good morning, ma'am." On paper, she was perfect. She started the next week. At first, everything sounded fine. Margaret told her son that Evelyn helped her bathe, cooked warm stews, and placed each spoon in the same place so Margaret could find them by touch. But a detail began to prick like a thorn. Whenever William called, Evelyn would cut the call short. "Your mother is resting," she'd say quickly. "Call later." When he called later, the phone stayed silent. "Perhaps she's sleeping," Evelyn would explain. Since Margaret could not see, she could not read the phone's small numbers. Evelyn became the gatekeeper of sound. Neighbors whispered too, but gently, not wanting to trouble a son serving far away. Old Mr. Jacobs, who sold peanuts at the corner, noticed that Evelyn always hurried Margaret when they visited the market. "Move faster," he once heard in a sharp tone when she thought no one was near. Another day, a child dropped a basket of oranges, and Mr. Jacobs saw Evelyn grip Margaret's elbow hard enough to turn the skin pale. "Careful," she snapped. When she looked up and saw Mr. Jacobs watching, her face turned sweet again. "So sorry, sir," she said. "The sun makes her dizzy." The town felt the change like a cloud covering the sun. But clouds can look like shade until rain starts. And the rain started on a quiet Tuesday. General Carter got a call from a private number on his secure line. The voice was shaky. Young Ben, the teenage boy from 3 houses down, who sometimes mowed Margaret's lawn. "Sir, I thought you should know." Ben tried to speak, stopped, then tried again. "I heard Miss Evelyn shouting at your mom this morning. I didn't want to cause trouble, but I'm scared for her. I put a small camera on the porch last week because I kept hearing things. I can send you the video." William's heartbeat changed rhythm. "Send it," he said. The video arrived like a stone dropped into clear water, and the ripples were ugly. He watched Evelyn's mouth form cruel words when she thought no one was near. He watched her snatch the cane from Margaret's hand. He watched her slam a pot down because the soup was not salty enough. He watched his mother flinch in the spot where sunlight used to pool on the living room rug. Then he saw something that turned his jaw into granite. Evelyn lifted a broom and struck the air above Margaret's head as a threat, then tapped her shoulder hard with the handle when she stumbled. Not once. Again. Again. He paused the video and looked away, his chest full of hot knives. In the army, there is a word for the feeling right before a mission: stillness mixed with lightning. That's what filled him as he arranged an unannounced leave. He told no one but his commanding officer. He did not want the town to prepare for the return of their hero. He did not want a welcome. He wanted the truth, as clean as water from a clay pot. He reached Oakhaven at dusk, when birds argued with the wind up in the mango tree, and the sky wore a red scarf. He walked the quiet path to the house, carrying his duffel. He kept his steps soft. As he turned the handle, he heard a muffled cry. His name, broken and small. Will? He did not use his rank at the door. He used his heart. He went in slow, both palms open. And then he saw the scene that would test every rule his mother ever taught him. Evelyn, face twisted, stood over Margaret with a broom raised high. The old woman tried to shield her head with both hands, trembling. William spoke, steady and low, like a drumbeat from far away. "Enough." Evelyn flinched, whirled around, and threw the broom. It flew toward him. He lifted his forearm. The bristles cracked against it and fell to the floor. The strike did not hurt as much as the thought that it was meant for his mother a second earlier. He moved between them, a wall of breath and bone. "Mom," he whispered. "I'm here." He knelt, touched her bruised arm, and felt a heat that made his throat tight. That was the morning storm. The hour after was a light rain. He helped Margaret to the couch and guided her fingers to a cup of water. She held it with both hands as if holding the first calm she had felt all day. He wiped the sweat from her forehead with a clean cloth and pressed it gently along the bruise on her arm. "I knew you would come," she said, smiling through tears. "I heard your step before the door. A mother knows the music of her child." He laughed, a short, cracked sound. "You shouldn't have to wait in fear to hear it," he said. Evelyn did not run. Not yet. She stood by the wall, staring at him like he was a locked door she needed to open fast. "Sir, I can explain," she began, voice sweet again, as if she could pour honey over broken glass and call it candy. She fell. I was trying to help. William looked at her, and the firmness in his eyes made the room straighter. "No," he said. "You were trying to hide." He picked up his phone and tapped. "Ben," he said when the call connected. "I got your message. Come over. Bring Mr. Jacobs, please." While they waited, Margaret reached for Evelyn's hand. Even now, even bruised, Margaret's fingers sought peace. "Child," Margaret whispered, "if I wronged you, tell me with words. Don't use your hands." That gentle sentence did more to soften the room than anything else could. For just a heartbeat, Evelyn's shoulders dropped, and her eyes darted to the window as if searching for a way out of the person she had been. But truth is not a river you can jump out of once you are swept in, and the truth, long hidden, began to rise. Ben and Mr. Jacobs arrived together. Ben stood near the door, nervous but brave, clutching a small flash drive with the video. Mr. Jacobs' hat looked too big, or maybe his worry made it so. They greeted Margaret with a bow of respect. "Ma'am," Mr. Jacobs said softly. "We're here." He turned to William. "Son, we saw things. We didn't want to believe them." William took a breath. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Let's watch it together." He placed the flash drive in the small TV's port. The room felt tighter with each second of buffering. Evelyn tried to speak again. "This is ridiculous," she said, but Margaret reached out a hand not to strike, but to ask for silence. "Let the truth sit in the chair," she said, using a proverb her grandmother loved. "When truth sits, lies must stand." The screen lit. The moments rolled out. The pushing, the harsh words, the broom. Evelyn's face shifted from pink anger to paper-white fear. As the last clip ended, no one moved. Even the curtains seemed to hold their breath. What came next was the low tide of a stormy day. Not calm yet, but the waves drew back enough for people to speak and choose. Mr. Jacobs put a gentle hand on Margaret's shoulder. "Forgive me for not telling you sooner," he said. "I thought I was protecting you from worry. I was wrong." Margaret patted his fingers. "You came now," she said. "That is what matters." Ben looked at the floor. "I'm sorry, General," he murmured. "I should have shouted the first day I heard her voice change." William touched the boy's arm. "You did the brave thing today," he said. "That courage will grow." Evelyn's eyes filled, but not with the kind of tears that wash a heart clean, more like the kind that blur a path for escape. "Please," she said, her voice rising. "I lost my job before this and the rent is due. I needed things to be perfect to keep this job. And when she spilled the soup and broke the plate, it felt like my life was breaking too." She shook her head, anger bubbling again. "No one ever helped me, so why should I?" "Because someone must be the first to break the chain," Margaret said softly. "Let kindness start with you." That sentence fell into the room like a small seed. Maybe it would grow later. But at that very second, Evelyn's face hardened. Seeds do not sprout on stone. A shadow moved across the window as a cloud covered the sun. The room turned cooler, as if the house itself was waiting. William stood taller than the worry in the air. "Evelyn," he said, "you cannot stay here. I will not let my mother be harmed another minute." He pulled out his phone to call the police, his duty clear. Protect, report, and let the law do its work. He had seen what happens when men take justice into their own fists. He would not be that man. But sometimes a story turns when you think it is finally walking straight. Evelyn's eyes darted to the kitchen. She took one step back, then another, and in a blink she dashed through the doorway. They heard a drawer yank open, wood scraping wood. "Evelyn, stop!" William called, moving after her. Ben and Mr. Jacobs shifted, unsure. There was a sound, metal rattling, and then Evelyn burst back into the living room with a sharp glint in her hand. A knife. Her breath came fast. She held the blade out, not high and wild like before, but low and shaking, as if she wanted to scare the air itself. "Nobody comes near me," she warned, backing toward the door. "Nobody calls anyone. I walk out, and we all forget this." William raised his hands, palms forward. "Put it down," he said, his voice even. "No one wants to hurt you, but you will not leave until the police arrive." He took a small step to the side, placing his body between the knife and his mother. Evelyn's gaze flicked to the TV, to the frozen frame of her own face caught mid-anger. Something like shame flickered, then died. She set her jaw. "You don't know me," she whispered. "You don't know what it took to survive." "Then let today be the day you stop surviving by hurting others," Margaret said. Her voice was thin but steady, like a string that still sings even when the instrument is old. "Child, please." For one heartbeat, the knife lowered. Then Evelyn looked at the window again, at the door, at the world that felt like a wall closing in. And she made her choice. She lunged. The blade flashed as she rushed past William, aiming not at him, but at the old woman on the couch. "I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. If this story gripped you, please like the video, subscribe for more powerful folktales, and share it with a friend who needs a reminder that kindness is strength." The knife glimmered like a streak of lightning as Evelyn lunged toward the couch. Margaret's blind eyes widened, but her frail body could not move fast enough. In that split second, the world slowed for General Carter. His training surged into every vein, how to read movement, how to react before thought could catch up. He sprang forward, arm snapping out like a shield. Steel met flesh. The blade grazed his forearm, drawing a thin line of blood, but his grip clamped down on Evelyn's wrist before she could push further. The sound of her gasp filled the room. "Not my mother," he growled, voice deep as thunder. His other hand twisted the knife free, sending it clattering across the wooden floor. Ben shouted, "Sir, she almost—" But the boy's words froze as Evelyn screamed, her voice raw and wild. She thrashed in the general's grip like a storm fighting a mountain. "Let me go!" she shrieked. Her knees kicked, her nails clawed, but William held firm. He had wrestled stronger enemies in faraway deserts, but never had his heart race this way, because this battle was inside his own home. Margaret, trembling, lifted her hands toward the sound. "Will, are you hurt?" Her voice was thin, soaked with fear. "Just a scratch, Mom." William answered quickly, "I'm fine. I won't let her touch you again." But the storm had not ended. Evelyn twisted suddenly, dropping her weight, and slipped free of his hold. She darted toward the door like a cornered fox. Her breath was ragged, her eyes darting, her lips curled with desperation. Mr. Jacobs blocked her path, his old hands shaking but steady as he spread his arms. "You won't escape this, girl," he said firmly. "Not after what we all saw." Evelyn froze, her chest heaving. Then she did something none of them expected. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the floor, clutching her head in both hands. Sobs shook her thin body. "I didn't want it to be like this," she cried. You don't know what I've been through." For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by her sobs. Even the ticking clock on the wall seemed to hesitate. William's hand hovered over his phone, torn between calling the police immediately and listening for the truth hidden in her broken words. Margaret's blind face tilted toward the sound of Evelyn's crying. Her heart, even bruised and trembling, still carried the same compassion it always had. "Child," she whispered softly, "pain is heavy, I know. But why did you pass your pain to me?" Evelyn lifted her face, streaked with tears, and the fury in her eyes softened into something else. Guilt, shame, maybe even sorrow. "Because no one ever cared," she whispered. "All my life, I was invisible, until I came here, and still, no one cared enough to see me." Her words hung heavy. Ben shifted uneasily, Mr. Jacobs frowned, and William clenched his jaw. He knew pain, too. He had seen soldiers break under the weight of unseen wounds, but he also knew that suffering was never a license to become cruel. Still, the room was balanced on the edge of choice: justice or mercy, punishment or understanding. William reached for his phone again, but just as he did, a loud pounding echoed on the door, 3 sharp knocks, then a voice, "Police, open up!" Everyone froze. Evelyn's sobs caught in her throat, her eyes darting like a trapped animal. Ben's face went pale. Mr. Jacobs looked at William, waiting for his command. Margaret's trembling hands clasped together in prayer. Who had called them? Was it a neighbor hearing the shouts? Or had someone been watching all along? William moved to the door, his heart pounding, not from fear, but from the storm of questions that suddenly whirled. Would the truth be heard? Would justice be done? Or would Evelyn's tears sway the hands of the law? He turned the handle. The door creaked open, and standing there, flanked by 2 officers, was not just the police, but a man from William's past he never expected to see in his mother's home. The shock almost knocked the air from his chest. The story has only deepened. Who is this man from William's past, and why is he here with the police at this very moment? Could he be tied to Evelyn's life before she came to the Carter home? Or is fate weaving 2 hidden stories into one? Drop your city or country in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people can join us on this journey of suspense, kindness, and justice. The moment William saw the man at the door, his breath caught. It was Captain Raymond Steele. His old comrade from the battlefield, the man who once saved his life in a foreign desert. But now, Raymond wore the dark blue of a police uniform, his face stern but shadowed by a flicker of recognition. "General Carter," Raymond said, his voice deep and measured. "It's been a long time." William straightened, blood still dripping from the shallow cut on his arm. "Raymond," he replied, his voice cautious. "What are you doing here?" Raymond's gaze swept past him, into the living room, where Evelyn sat crumpled on the floor, Margaret trembling on the couch, and the broom lay broken in two. His jaw tightened. "We received reports of shouting. Neighbors said someone screamed for help. I didn't expect to find you here, or her." His eyes landed on Evelyn, and for the first time since entering, his composure cracked. Evelyn's head snapped up. Her swollen eyes widened. "Uncle," she whispered, voice shaking. The room fell silent, like a drumbeat cut short. "Uncle?" William echoed, disbelief flooding his voice. Raymond's face darkened with conflict. He stepped inside, the two officers following close behind. "Evelyn Brooks," he said coldly, "you should have come to me before things reached this point." Margaret gasped softly, clutching her son's hand. "You mean, you know her?" Raymond exhaled, heavy as a man carrying two burdens. "Yes. She's my sister's child. My niece." He looked at William, his voice hardening. "I didn't know she was working here, and I didn't know she had sunk this low." Evelyn covered her face with her hands, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "I didn't want you to know," she sobbed. "You always told me to be strong, but I was never strong enough." The weight of her words pressed on everyone in the room. William's chest ached with the bitter taste of betrayal, not just because Evelyn had hurt his mother, but because her cruelty was tied to someone he once trusted with his life. Raymond took a step closer, towering over his niece. "You shamed the family, Evelyn. After everything your mother sacrificed, after everything I gave to keep this town safe, you come here and do this?" His voice thundered through the small room, making even the officers shift uncomfortably. But Margaret, blind and bruised, spoke softly again, cutting through the noise like a candle in darkness. "Raymond, anger will not mend a broken heart. She has done evil, yes. But tell me, did anyone ever see the pain she carried before today?" Raymond froze, his anger colliding with his aunt's wisdom. He swallowed hard, then turned away, as if the walls might answer the questions burning in his chest. William, still standing firm, placed a hand on his mother's shoulder. "This isn't just about pain, Mom. It's about protection. If Evelyn could do this once, she could do it again. I won't risk your life for her second chance." His voice was steel, forged in both war and love. Evelyn's sobs turned bitter. "So what then? You hand me over like trash? You let them lock me up while you all sit here pretending you're saints?" She glared at them through her tears, her face twisted with anger and despair. "You think you're better than me? You don't know what hunger feels like. You don't know what it means to be abandoned by everyone." Her words hit like stones. Even William, hardened by battle, felt their sting. He remembered soldiers who had cracked under the pressure of loneliness, men who had carried invisible scars deeper than any bullet wound. But before he could answer, one of the officers stepped forward. "Sir," the younger one said, addressing Raymond. "What's the order? Do we take her in?" Raymond clenched his fists, torn between his duty as an officer and his bond as an uncle. His lips pressed into a hard line. He hesitated. The silence stretched. Margaret leaned forward, her blind eyes searching for something she could not see but felt in the room. "If justice is to be done," she whispered, "let it be fair, not poisoned by family ties. Do what you must." The officer nodded and reached for Evelyn's arm, but before he could touch her, Evelyn leapt to her feet with a sudden burst of strength. She shoved the officer back, his cap flying off, and bolted toward the door. "Stop her!" William barked, but she was quick, her desperation giving her the speed of a hunted animal. She darted out the door, her sobs trailing behind her into the night. Ben cried out, "She's running," and dashed toward the porch. Mr. Jacobs grabbed his arm to stop him. "No, boy, it's too dangerous." Raymond cursed under his breath, already moving. "I'll go after her," he said, shoving past William. "She's my responsibility." William followed close, his soldier's instinct taking over. He couldn't let this end in more tragedy. Evelyn's figure flickered in the moonlight as she sprinted down the dirt road, her shadow long and twisted. And then, suddenly, she stumbled. The road curved by the old wooden bridge that crossed the stream near the Carters' home. Evelyn's foot caught on a stone, and she crashed to her knees, the sound of splintering wood echoing through the night. She clung to the edge of the bridge, her scream piercing the stillness as one hand dangled over the rushing water below. Raymond and William both froze at the sight. Two men, one a general and the other a police captain, staring at the same girl who was both sinner and family. Tell me, where are you watching from? Share your city or country in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more suspenseful folktales, and share it with friends who love a story filled with twists and lessons. The night wind howled as Evelyn's scream echoed over the rushing water. Her body dangled halfway off the splintered bridge, one hand clutching the rotten wood, the other clawing at the empty air. Below, the stream gushed against sharp rocks, ready to swallow her whole if she slipped. William's soldier's instinct roared inside him. His boots thundered across the dirt as he reached the edge. "Evelyn! Hold on!" he shouted, his voice carrying the same command he once used to save men in the battlefield. Raymond was right behind him, his breath ragged with panic. "Niece, don't you let go." His face, hardened by years of duty, cracked open into pure fear. "Don't you dare!" Evelyn's eyes, wide with terror, darted between them. Her voice broke through sobs. "Why save me? After everything I did to her, after everything I did to you, let me fall. Maybe I deserve it." The water hissed below, hungry for her body. William dropped to his knees, reaching out, the muscles in his arms straining. "No one deserves to die like this," he barked. His hand stretched toward hers. "Take it. Now." For a second, her trembling fingers hovered inches away from his. Then the wood beneath her creaked loudly, threatening to snap. Evelyn screamed again. I can't hold on." Raymond lunged beside William, his own hand thrusting forward. "Grab me, child. I'm your blood. Don't let go." The bridge groaned like an old beast. In that tense moment, Evelyn's tear-streaked face twisted with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She looked at Raymond, then at William, and finally at the darkness below. With a desperate cry, she let go of the wood and grasped Raymond's wrist. Her weight nearly pulled him over the edge, but William's soldier reflexes kicked in. He grabbed Raymond's belt from behind, anchoring them both. Muscles burned, veins bulged, but inch by inch together, they pulled Evelyn back onto the bridge. She collapsed onto the wooden planks, gasping for air, her body shaking uncontrollably. Her hands clutched the soil as if she'd never let go again. Raymond fell beside her, chest heaving, his face wet, not from sweat but from tears. "You foolish girl," he choked. "You almost died tonight. You almost left me carrying your ghost." Evelyn buried her face in her hands, sobbing harder. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." William stood over them, his breath steadying. He looked at his bleeding arm, then at the niece of his old comrade lying broken in the dirt. A swirl of emotions gripped him. Rage, sorrow, relief, and something else he couldn't name. The officers who had followed them finally caught up, their flashlights cutting through the night. One of them stepped forward. "Sir, she has to be taken in now," he said, his tone firm. But Raymond held up a hand. "Wait," he said hoarsely, his other arm still around Evelyn. "She'll face justice, yes, but not as a runaway. Not as some criminal dragged by force. She'll walk on her own feet knowing she was saved tonight when she thought all was lost. William narrowed his eyes. And if she doesn't? If she tries to escape again? Raymond turned to Evelyn, his face fierce. You try to run, and you'll never see daylight again. But if you face what you've done, maybe, just maybe, you'll find a way back from this. Evelyn looked up, her face streaked with tears and dirt. I don't know if I can. Margaret's faint voice floated from the porch where she sat waiting, her words soft but strong as steel. Child, you just did. You chose a hand instead of the water. That is the first step. The group slowly returned to the house, the air thick with the weight of what had just happened. The officers flanked Evelyn, not binding her yet, but watching closely. Raymond walked at her side, his hand on her shoulder like both a guard and a guide. Inside, Margaret waited on the couch, her blind eyes lifted toward the sound of their footsteps. Did she fall? She asked, her voice trembling. William knelt beside her, holding her fragile hand. No, Mom. Not tonight. She was saved. Margaret exhaled deeply, a prayer slipping from her lips. Then the story is not finished yet. For a moment, the room felt calm, too calm, and then, out of nowhere, a rock crashed through the front window, shattering glass across the floor. Everyone flinched. Evelyn screamed and ducked, the officers drawing their flashlights. William darted to the window, peering into the darkness outside. Shadows moved in the street. Voices murmured. Another rock thudded against the wall. Raymond cursed under his breath. It's the townsfolk, he growled. Word has spread about what Evelyn did. Margaret's face turned pale. Oh, Lord, they've come for her. Tell me in the comments where are you watching from. Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more thrilling folk tales, and share this story so others can join this journey filled with suspense, compassion, and hard choices. The night outside the Carter home boiled with anger. Dozens of townsfolk crowded the dusty road, their faces lit by kerosene lanterns and the pale glow of the moon. Voices rose in furious waves. She beat Miss Margaret, one woman cried. After all that old lady has done for this community? Another man shouted. Bring her out, a group chanted. Let her pay. The sound of stones striking the walls grew louder, glass crunching underfoot. The Carter home, once a safe haven, now felt like a fortress under siege. Inside, Evelyn cowered in the corner, her arms wrapped around her knees, sobbing. The two officers stood alert, hands near their belts. Raymond's jaw tightened as he looked at William. If this gets out of hand, it'll be a riot, he muttered. William's soldier instincts flared. He strode to the front door and yanked it open, stepping out onto the porch. The crowd roared louder at the sight of him, their anger like fire searching for wood. He raised both hands, his voice booming like a drill sergeant on parade ground. Quiet. The single word rolled over the mob, silencing them for a moment. His eyes, sharp and commanding, swept across their faces. You know me. You know my family. You know my mother. She taught me that justice is not done with stones and rage. A voice from the crowd shouted back, She doesn't deserve justice. She deserves punishment. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the people. William's fist clenched, but he forced his tone steady. Listen to yourselves. Is this the example we want for our children? To answer violence with more violence? If you harm her tonight, you are no better than she was when she harmed my mother. The words cut deep. The mob shifted uneasily, some lowering their stones, others shaking their heads. But anger still burned. Margaret's frail voice rose from inside the house, carried out into the night. Though blind, her tone pierced through the crowd like light in darkness. My children, she called. If I, the one who was beaten, can still choose mercy, who are you to demand revenge? The crowd fell silent again as if the whole town held its breath. Old Mr. Jacobs stepped forward from among them, his voice low but firm. She's right. We cannot become the very evil we despise. Justice belongs in the hands of the law, not the fists of neighbors. Some nodded reluctantly, but not all. A younger man, his face twisted with anger, shouted, "If the law fails, what then? What if she walks free?" William stepped closer, his shadow stretching long in the lantern light. "Then I swear, as a son, as a soldier, and as a man who loves this community, I will see justice done, but not this way, not tonight." The younger man's shoulders slumped, his stone dropping to the ground with a dull thud. One by one, others followed. The fire of the mob dimmed, replaced by murmurs and shuffling feet. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, lanterns bobbing away into the night. The sound of anger faded into the hush of crickets and rushing water from the nearby stream. William exhaled heavily and stepped back inside, his shoulders stiff with tension. The officers secured the broken window, and Raymond shut the door firmly. For a moment, peace returned. But the storm inside the house was far from over. Evelyn, still curled in the corner, looked up at the sound of the retreating crowd. Her face was streaked with tears and shame. "Why did you stop them?" she whispered hoarsely. "I deserved it." Margaret, weak but resolute, spoke softly. "Because your punishment is not in their hands. It is in God's and in the law's. You will face it, but you will not be destroyed by hate." Raymond knelt in front of his niece, his eyes fierce. "You're lucky, Evelyn. If it weren't for them, that mob would have torn you apart. Don't waste this chance. You will face the court. You will answer for everything you did. But tonight you are still breathing because they chose mercy." Evelyn's shoulders shook as she sobbed harder, her body trembling like a child. For the first time, the fire in her eyes was gone, replaced by hollow emptiness. I don't know how to face it," she whispered. William looked at her, his voice steady but sharp. "You don't have a choice anymore." The room fell into silence. The family, the officers, and the trembling maid all sat in the heavy weight of what had just happened. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the night had finally calmed. But then, another sound shattered the silence. A loud crash came from the back of the house. The kitchen door burst open, wood splintering as it slammed against the wall. Everyone froze, and stepping inside, cloaked in the shadows of the night, was a tall stranger with a scar running across his face. His eyes gleamed with something darker than anger, something far more dangerous. "That girl," he said in a gravelly voice, pointing at Evelyn. "She owes me, and I've come to collect." The entire room stiffened. Evelyn gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "No, not him. Not now. Let me ask, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more powerful folktales and share it with your friends who love suspense and life lessons." The room froze as the scarred stranger stepped fully into the house, his presence sucking the air out of the walls. His boots thudded heavily on the floor, and his dark coat brushed against the shattered glass scattered across the carpet. His gaze was locked on Evelyn, cold, unblinking, and filled with menace. Evelyn's sobs turned into strangled gasps. She scrambled backward on her hands and knees, pressing herself into the corner as though the wall could swallow her. No, please," she stammered. "I told you I'd pay. Just not yet." The man's lips curled into a cruel half-smile. "You had your time, girl, and you ran. Did you think I wouldn't find you? Did you think you could hide behind an old blind woman and her soldier son?" His eyes flicked briefly toward Margaret, then to William, and finally to Raymond. His expression didn't falter. "Tonight, the debt is mine to collect." Raymond immediately stepped forward, his hand resting on his belt where his badge and holster sat. "Who are you?" he demanded. "This is a private residence. You're trespassing. State your business or get out." The stranger chuckled darkly, the sound like gravel grinding under boots. "Name's Marcus Vane," he said, "and my business is standing right there." He jabbed a finger toward Evelyn, who cowered, shaking uncontrollably. "She owes me more than you can imagine. Money, Promises, betrayals, call it what you want, but tonight she comes with me. William squared his shoulders, the soldier in him bristling at the threat. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. No one takes anyone from my home by force. If she has a debt, the law will handle it. You're not the law. Marcus's eyes glittered and his smirk widened. Law? He spat the word like it was bitter in his mouth. The law doesn't scare me, General. Men like me don't wait for courts and judges. We take what's ours. And she, he growled, his finger stabbing the air again, is mine. Margaret, her fragile frame trembling, lifted her chin bravely. Though blind, her voice rang with unshakable dignity. No human being belongs to another, she declared. Not my maid, not my neighbor, not even my enemy. You may carry scars on your face, Marcus, but it is your heart that is uglier. The room went silent for a heartbeat. Marcus's smirk twitched into a sneer. His hand slipped inside his coat. The metallic glint of a knife flashed as he drew it, holding it casually but with deadly certainty. The officers instantly moved, drawing their weapons. "Drop it!" one barked, aiming his flashlight and pistol at Marcus. "Now!" But Marcus only chuckled, twirling the knife slowly. "You think guns scare me? I've stared down worse than bullets. Put them away before someone gets cut." Raymond shifted, his own hand inching toward his weapon. His voice was sharp. "Don't test me. Put the knife down, or this ends badly. For you." Evelyn cried out suddenly, her voice cracking with terror. "Please, stop. Don't hurt him." Her words shocked everyone. William's head snapped toward her. "Don't hurt him?" he echoed, disbelief heavy in his tone. "He just threatened you with a knife." Evelyn shook her head frantically, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't understand. He's not just a stranger. He saved me once, long ago. If it wasn't for him, I would have been dead already. I owed him, and I failed to pay him back." Marcus's knife lowered slightly, though his smirk remained. "Finally, some truth from your lips, girl." He turned to William. "See? She's mine by her own admission. She promised me her loyalty. But loyalty's cheap these days." His gaze hardened. "I've come to take what I'm owed." William stepped forward, towering over the scarred man, every inch the general he was trained to be. His voice was like iron. "If you think you'll walk out of this house with her, you'll have to step over me first." The officers tensed, Raymond bracing himself, and Margaret whispered a trembling prayer under her breath. The knife gleamed again as Marcus raised it higher, his eyes burning with challenge. The air thickened, every second stretching into eternity. One wrong move and blood would stain the floor. And then, before anyone could act, a thunderous voice boomed from outside. "Enough!" Everyone froze. The front door swung open again, and in stepped the town's sheriff, flanked by two more officers, his broad frame filling the doorway. His presence carried the weight of authority that even Marcus could not easily dismiss. But the sheriff's eyes weren't just on Marcus. They swept the room, landing on Evelyn, and then narrowing sharply, because the sheriff knew her, and the truth he carried about Evelyn's past would change everything. I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Share your city or country in the comments, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more gripping folktales, and share this story so your friends can be part of the suspense and lessons too. The sheriff's boots echoed as he stepped fully into the shattered living room, the glow of lanterns outside spilling across his weathered face. Sheriff Daniel Hart had been in Oak Haven for decades, a man known for his no-nonsense tone and an iron grip on law and order. His voice, sharp and thunderous, cut through the tension like a blade. "Put that knife down, Marcus," he commanded, his hand resting firmly on the butt of his revolver. "One more twitch, and I'll drop you where you stand." Marcus Vane's smirk faltered. He glanced at the sheriff, then back at William and Raymond. His knuckles whitened on the handle of the knife, but the fire in his eyes dimmed slightly. He muttered under his breath, "You always did stick your nose where it didn't belong, Sheriff." The sheriff ignored him and turned to Evelyn, his gaze hardened, his voice dropping lower. And you. I told you this day would come. You thought you could run, change your name, start over. But the past always catches up. The room stiffened. William's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about, Sheriff? Evelyn's face drained of all color. Her body shook violently as she whispered, Please, don't. Sheriff Hart didn't blink. This isn't the first home Evelyn has poisoned. Years ago, in another town, she worked for an elderly couple. Both blind, both helpless. The neighbors found out too late that she had been tormenting them, stealing from them, and when they reported it, she disappeared before the law could take her in. We've been looking for her since then. Gasps filled the room. Margaret's frail hands gripped her son's tightly. Dear Lord, she murmured. William's chest tightened, anger boiling in his veins. So you're saying she's done this before? She made a habit of preying on the weak? The sheriff nodded grimly. And Marcus here, he flicked his eyes toward the scarred man, isn't just some thug. He was part of her escape. She promised him her loyalty, her help, maybe even his share of what she stole. When she ran from him too, she made an enemy out of the wrong man. Marcus chuckled bitterly, lowering the knife an inch. At least someone's telling the truth. She owes me plenty. Not just money, blood. Evelyn collapsed to her knees, her sobs echoing against the broken walls. I was desperate. They treated me like dirt. No one ever gave me anything. I only took what I thought I deserved. And when Marcus helped me escape, I swore I'd repay him. But I couldn't. Everything fell apart. She buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean to hurt your mother, General. I just wanted control of something in my life. The room was thick with disgust, pity, and rage. Raymond shook his head slowly, his voice breaking. You were my niece, my blood. I defended you when people doubted you. And this is what you've been all along? His eyes filled with tears. You've shamed me. Worse, you've shamed yourself. William stood tall, his voice sharp as a blade. I don't care about debts or excuses. Tonight you nearly killed my mother. That alone is enough. His eyes locked with the sheriff's. She's yours now. Do what the law demands. The sheriff gave a curt nod. Officers, restrain her. The two younger officers moved quickly, pulling Evelyn to her feet. She fought weakly at first, crying out, Please, don't let them take me. Uncle, do something. General, I'm sorry. But her pleas fell hollow, drowned by the weight of truth. The cuffs clicked shut around her wrists. Marcus laughed darkly, sliding the knife back into his coat. So that's it, huh? You drag her off, and I get nothing? His eyes narrowed dangerously. I warned you, Sheriff. She owes me. Sheriff Hart's hand never left his revolver. She belongs to the law, Marcus. You want to collect something? Try honesty, for once in your miserable life. Marcus's sneer deepened, but he didn't move. The standoff stretched for long, tense seconds until finally, he spat on the floor and backed toward the door. Fine, but this isn't finished. Not by a long shot. He disappeared into the night, leaving behind the echo of a promise too dangerous to ignore. The crowd outside had grown quieter, murmurs rising as they saw Evelyn led out in cuffs. Some jeered, others shook their heads, and a few simply turned away in sorrow. The sheriff raised his hand, silencing them. Justice is served tonight. Let the law handle the rest. Inside, Margaret leaned against William's shoulder, her voice soft but steady. My son, sometimes the hardest battles are not fought on fields with guns, but in homes where trust is broken. William kissed her forehead gently. You're right, Mom, but I swear, no one will ever harm you under this roof again. The house grew still again, though the night outside still whispered of unfinished storms. And then, just as the officers prepared to escort Evelyn out, a sudden explosion shattered the quiet. A flash lit the night, followed by the splintering of wood and the shattering of glass. The force rocked the Carter home, throwing everyone to the floor. Margaret screamed. William shielded her with his body, and the officers scrambled for cover. Smoke poured through the back door, thick and choking. Raymond's voice roared through the chaos. "It's Marcus, he's back. Let me ask, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and remember to like this video, subscribe for more thrilling folk tales, and share this story so others can experience the suspense and lessons with you." The explosion rattled the ground like thunder cracking open the earth. Smoke and fire licked through the shattered back door, filling the Carter home with chaos. Dishes fell from shelves, a picture frame crashed to the floor, and Margaret's frightened cry cut through the roar of the blast. "Will!" she screamed. "I've got you, Mom," William shouted, wrapping his arms around her and pulling her down to the ground. He shielded her body with his own, his soldier's instincts snapping into action as debris rained around them. Raymond coughed through the thick smoke, dragging Evelyn, still cuffed, toward the corner. "Stay down," he barked at her. The officers scrambled, pistols drawn, eyes darting toward the shadows that shifted through the haze outside. From the darkness came the unmistakable voice of Marcus Vane. His laughter rolled like thunder, cruel and victorious. "Did you think I'd walk away? Did you think you could rob me of what's mine?" His silhouette appeared in the smoke, the knife gleaming again in his hand. "I told you this wasn't finished." The townsfolk outside shrieked in panic as flames flared against the night sky. Lanterns swung wildly as people scattered, though some stayed, their shouts mixing with fear and anger. William rose to his feet, blood streaking his forehead from a cut he hadn't noticed. His voice was like iron cutting through the smoke. "Marcus, you've crossed the line. This ends tonight." Marcus smirked through the haze, his scar twisting grotesquely. "Then come and stop me, soldier boy. Let's see if you're as strong here as you were on the battlefield." The sheriff stumbled back inside, coughing, revolver in hand. "Everyone down," he roared. But Marcus moved like a predator, slashing the knife toward one of the officers. The officer barely dodged, his sleeve tearing open. Raymond lunged forward, tackling Marcus to the floor. The two men crashed hard, the knife flashing dangerously close to Raymond's throat. The house groaned as the flames crept higher, smoke thickening. Evelyn screamed from her corner, her voice shrill. "Stop it! Please stop it! He's not worth it!" William didn't hesitate. He dove into the fray, his soldier's strength clamping down on Marcus's wrist. The knife clattered to the floor. But Marcus was strong, his body a coil of rage and desperation. He headbutted William, sending him sprawling, then rolled on top of Raymond, fists flying. Margaret, blind but fierce, clutched her cane and raised her voice above the chaos. "Will, Raymond, don't let hate blind you the way my eyes are blinded. Stop him with justice, not with wrath." Her words rang like a bell in William's ears. He staggered back to his feet, chest heaving. He saw Marcus pinning Raymond down, his fists a blur. In a single swift motion, William grabbed the broken broom handle from the floor and swung it down, pinning Marcus's arm against the boards. "Enough!" he roared. The sheriff stepped in, revolver aimed point blank at Marcus's head. "Don't move," he growled. For the first time, Marcus froze. His chest rose and fell like a caged animal, but the wild fire in his eyes dimmed. The officers pounced, forcing him onto his stomach, pinning his arms, snapping the cuffs around his wrists. The fight was over, but the fire wasn't. Flames now clawed at the curtains, smoke choking the air. Evelyn cried out, "The house, it's burning!" William scooped his mother into his arms. "Everyone out. Now," he commanded. The group stumbled through the smoke-filled rooms, hacking and coughing, until they burst into the cool night air. The townsfolk had gathered again, watching in horror as the Carter home, the house that had stood for generations, crackled and burned under the orange glow. William set Margaret gently on the grass, brushing soot from her hair. She reached up, touching his face tenderly. "My son, it's only a house. What matters is that we are alive." Raymond collapsed onto the ground nearby, bloodied but breathing. Evelyn sat cuffed between two officers, her face streaked with ash and tears, staring at the burning house with wide, broken eyes. Marcus knelt restrained, snarling, his plans reduced to ashes just like the home before them. The sheriff stood tall, his eyes reflecting the fire. "Justice won't wait till morning," he said. "Tonight Marcus goes into custody. Evelyn, too. No more running, no more hiding." The crowd murmured, torn between relief and sorrow as the flames devoured the Carter home. Children cried. Men removed their hats. Women clasped their hands in prayer. And yet, just as the fire roared its loudest, a sudden cracking sound split the air. The roof buckled, beams collapsing inward with a deafening crash. Sparks flew into the sky, lighting the night like falling stars. The crowd gasped as a figure staggered out of the smoke at the very last second, someone no one expected to see inside the house at all. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Evelyn. It wasn't an officer. It was a stranger, tall and cloaked, holding something wrapped tightly in his arms. He laid the bundle on the grass and looked straight at William, his face half hidden in the glow of the fire. "General Carter," he said in a low voice, "this belongs to your family. Let me ask you, where are you watching from? Share your city or country in the comments, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this folktale so others can join in the suspense, twists, and life lessons." The fire crackled angrily behind them as the cloaked stranger lowered the bundle onto the damp grass. The crowd pressed closer, their lanterns casting long, trembling shadows across the yard. Every eye locked on the mysterious figure. William stepped forward, his body still tense from the battle with Marcus. His voice was sharp. "Who are you? And what is that you've brought?" The stranger pulled back his hood, revealing a weathered face marked by time and travel. His eyes were dark, tired but steady. He knelt and slowly unwrapped the bundle. The crowd gasped as layers of cloth peeled away to reveal an old, leather-bound chest. It was small enough to be carried under one arm but heavy with the weight of secrets. The brass lock gleamed in the firelight unbroken, as if it had waited years for this very moment. Margaret's blind head tilted. "That sound," she whispered, recognizing the scrape of the hinges. Her lips trembled. "I know that chest, but it was lost. Decades ago." The stranger looked at her solemnly. "Not lost. Hidden. I was the one who took it, on your husband's orders, just before he passed." He turned to William. "General, your father feared what was inside would bring danger to the family, so he entrusted it to me. I've guarded it ever since." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Raymond stepped closer, his face pale from exhaustion and shock. "You mean to say this chest has been missing all these years and you just appear now on the night this house burns?" The man nodded gravely. "Because the danger your father feared has returned. Marcus Vane knew about this chest. Evelyn was his pawn, a distraction. But Marcus was really after what's inside." Evelyn, still cuffed between two officers, whimpered, I didn't know it was that important." Her wide, tear-streaked eyes darted to the chest as though it contained her final undoing. Marcus snarled from where he knelt, restrained, but still dangerous. "Open it, Carter. Go on. See the curse your family's been hiding. That box destroyed your father, and it'll destroy you too." The fire hissed louder, embers floating like spirits into the night. William knelt before the chest, his hands hovering over the brass lock. His heart pounded as he whispered, "What's inside?" The stranger's voice dropped to a chilling murmur. "Gold, letters, and a confession." The crowd gasped again. Margaret's breath caught in her throat. "Confession?" she echoed, her voice shaking. The stranger nodded slowly. "Your husband, your father, left behind truths that could shatter this family. That's why he ordered me to hide it. But now, it cannot remain hidden. Too many lives are at stake." William's hand pressed against the cold brass. His soldier's mind screamed for caution, but his heart demanded answers. He could feel every eye on him, his mother's blind gaze, Raymond's hardened stare, Evelyn's trembling fear, Marcus's burning hatred. The weight of Oak Haven itself seemed to press down on that chest. He took a deep breath and lifted it into his arms. If there are secrets about my family, then I will face them. But not here. Not in front of a mob hungry for scandal. His eyes scanned the crowd with authority. This chest belongs to my family. I will decide what happens with it. The townsfolk murmured, torn between curiosity and respect. Margaret reached for the box with trembling hands, brushing her fingers against its worn surface. It feels the same, she whispered, as though it never left. But before William could carry it inside what was left of the house, Marcus let out a low laugh. You think you're safe now? That chest isn't just yours. My blood was spilled for what's inside. My scars came from protecting it once, long before you knew me. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with venom, and I'll spill more blood to get it back. The officers tightened their grip on him, but his words sent a chill through the night. Then from the darkness at the edge of the crowd, another voice rose, steady, familiar, and unmistakable. Marcus is right. Every head turned. Out from the shadows stepped a woman in a dark cloak, her face lined with age but her eyes sharp with fire. The lantern light caught her features and Margaret gasped loudly, clutching William's arm. "Dear Lord," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It can't be. She's been dead for 30 years. The woman pulled back her hood, revealing a face Margaret hadn't seen since her youth. "Hello, sister," the woman said softly. "It's time the truth came out." The crowd erupted into shocked cries. "I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments and don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more epic folk tales, and share this story so others can join the suspense and lessons with us." The night split in half when Margaret's trembling voice echoed through the yard. "Rebecca. My sister." The crowd hushed. Flames crackled behind them, painting the sky red as the cloaked woman stepped closer. Her eyes locked onto Margaret's blind ones with a mix of sorrow and defiance. "Yes," she said, her voice calm but heavy. "I am Rebecca Carter. I didn't die 30 years ago. I disappeared because of what's inside that chest." The townsfolk gasped. William felt his grip tighten around the box, his heart thundering. "What are you saying?" he demanded. Rebecca's gaze shifted to the chest in William's arms. "Your father, our father, left behind more than gold, William. He left behind his sins, and the Carter name has been protected by lies ever since." Marcus sneered from the ground, his cuffed hands pulling against the steel. "Finally, someone says it. Tell them, Rebecca. Tell them the Carters were never saints." "Silence," Raymond barked, but the air was already thick with whispers from the crowd. Rebecca raised her chin, her voice slicing through the murmurs. "The confession in that chest will prove that our father, your grandfather, built this family's fortune not on honor, but on betrayal. He took land, cheated neighbors, and silenced those who stood in his way. My protest against him is what forced me into hiding. And Margaret," she paused, her voice breaking, "you were too blind with love for him to believe me." Margaret's face twisted with anguish. She clutched William's arm. No, Rebecca. He was a good man. He provided for us. He lied to you," Rebecca interrupted sharply, "and his lies poisoned us all. Marcus knows because his father was one of the men our family wronged. That's why he bears those scars, not just on his face but in his soul." The crowd stirred, old suspicions and buried resentments bubbling to the surface. Marcus laughed bitterly, his teeth flashing in the firelight. "You hear that, General? Your family made me what I am. You think I'm the villain, but I'm only the product of Carter greed." William's jaw clenched. His voice was steady, but his hand shook as he held the chest tighter. "Even if what you say is true, Marcus, you chose cruelty. You chose violence. My father's sins don't excuse your own." Rebecca's eyes softened as she looked at William. "That's why the chest must be opened. The truth must be read aloud. By you. the son who carries the Carter name with honor. Only then can the curse of our family be broken. Margaret's frail body shook as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Will, I don't want to hear it," she whispered. "The truth will destroy me." William knelt beside her, holding her hand. "Mom," he said gently, "the truth can't destroy us. Lies already tried. If there's pain inside this chest, we'll bear it together." The sheriff stepped forward, nodding. "General Carter is right. Secrets fester in darkness. If this chest holds the truth, let it be spoken before God and man." William's hands trembled as he pressed the brass lock. It clicked open with a soft snap. Slowly, he lifted the lid. Inside lay stacks of faded papers, bundles of old letters tied with string, and beneath them, a pouch of gold coins that glimmered in the firelight. He picked up the topmost letter. The paper was brittle, the ink faded, but the words were clear. He began to read aloud, his voice firm but shaken. "To my family, I confess that the Carter name is stained. I stole land from men weaker than me, promising them help but leaving them with nothing. I bribed officials to hide my deeds, and I silenced those who spoke against me. I built wealth, yes, but at the cost of justice and mercy. If you find this, know that I am sorry, but also know the sins of the father will follow the children until they choose a different path." The crowd gasped. Margaret let out a wail, clutching her chest. "No, it can't be true," she sobbed. Raymond bowed his head, fists clenched. Rebecca closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Do you see now, sister? I wasn't lying. I carried this burden alone all these years. But it was never just mine to carry." Marcus's voice rose like venom. "Now you understand. My father's land was stolen by yours. My family starved while yours feasted. I carry these scars because of Carter greed." The mob outside stirred dangerously again, anger sparking in their whispers. But William stood tall, the letter in his hand, his voice commanding. "Listen to me. Yes, my grandfather sinned. Yes, our name is stained. But tonight I swear it ends with me. I will not carry his greed. I will not carry his cruelty. I will rebuild this family's honor the right way, through justice, mercy, and service." His words rolled over the crowd, silencing their anger like waves calming a storm. Margaret, weeping, lifted her trembling hand toward her son's face. "Will, you are the proof that a tree can grow straighter than its roots. I am proud of you." Rebecca nodded slowly, her eyes softening. "Perhaps the curse can truly be broken. But beware, William. Truth is only the first step. The world will judge you by how you walk with it." The sheriff gestured to the officers. "Take Marcus away, and Evelyn too. Their crimes are separate from the sins of the past." The mob began to disperse, quieter now, murmuring about the Carters, about curses, about justice. The fire finally died down, leaving the Carter home in ruins, but the night strangely calm. William stood in the yard, the chest in his hands, his mother by his side, his uncle at his back, and a town watching him with new eyes. The sins of the past had been dragged into the light, but the choice of the future rested squarely on his shoulders. For the first time in a long while, he felt not just like a soldier, but like the leader his family and his community desperately needed. And as the stars pierced the smoky sky, Margaret whispered softly, "The story is not over, my son, but perhaps, tonight, a new one has begun." Before you go, I'd love to know, where are you watching this story from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if this tale touched you, please like the video, subscribe for more powerful African folk tales, and share it so others can feel the lessons of truth, justice, and mercy. And